Have you ever imagined a place where the sea turns blood red and the mountains look snow-covered even at 50 degrees? A place the world sees as a target, but the locals taste in the rawness of the earth. On this island, people don't just walk on the ground, they bake that very red soil into their bread every night. Nearly 30% of the world's oil flows past these steep mountains daily. This is Hormuz, a tiny rocky island just 16 square miles sitting right at the world's throat. A place where war is just a headache, but the blood runs deep. The dust is real. If you look at the map of the Middle East, you'll see a narrow waterway squeezed tight between two lands, holding the sea in place. That's the Strait of Hormuz. Heading down along Iran's southern edge, right in the middle of the waterway, there's a small egg-shaped rocky island. Visitors get here by hopping on a crowded ferry from the coastal city of Bandar Abbas on the mainland. The journey starts from the noisy city and slowly moves toward the salty sea, leading up to the hard, dusty dome of volcanic rock. Because of its location, this island acts like a silent guard of the global economy. The strait here, they're so narrow that huge cargo ships keep moving through non-stop. They look like steel walls carrying millions of barrels of crude oil. They're so heavy that the water waves push up against the shore. But once you get close to the water, the scene changes completely. Fishermen sit in small wooden boats, rocking gently on the waves made by these metal giants. They cast their nets into the warm green water. They recognize the route by the shape of the salty waves. One tiny miscalculation could have a massive tanker smash their wooden boat to pieces in an instant. From the outside, it seems like an intense geopolitical border, but in reality, it's just a peaceful fishing village. The folks in the wooden boats don't care about the world market. They only watch the tides. They cast their nets with bare hands. The skin on their fingers, worn rough and cracked from the salt, is thick and tough. They take the fish to the local market. Behind mud walls, they feed their families. Those walls, built by hand, hold in the day's heat and protect the sleeping children inside from the salty sea air. Just outside their windows, the constant roar of the global machine rumbles on, a steady hum of diesel engines hanging in the air. The rest of the world watches this waterway anxiously, especially the Strait of Hormuz. People just dust off the red dirt piled up outside their doors, patch up their nets, and quietly live on the edge of the map. But the sky often tests that silence itself. Living on this edge takes a special kind of endurance. Politics might never find peace, but the sky never does either. When July comes, the wind stops. It feels like a heavy weight pressing down on your chest. Temperatures soar past 50 degrees. There are no thick forests here, no green valleys. Just open volcanic rock and red dust, scorched under a pale sky. People don't fight against this loom. They surrender. By noon, the narrow earthen lanes clear out. The colorful three-wheeled motorcycles sit silently in the narrow shadows of the buildings. The fishermen tie up their boats and disappear. They take shelter inside thick walls made of muddy earth. In winter, this same earth blocks the sea breeze, but in summer it turns into a huge heat shield, protecting people from the sun's harsh fire. Inside these houses, families sit in dim light. The ceiling fan above just moves the hot air around. From a plastic jug soaked with sweat, they pour themselves some water, cold mango sherbet, then waiting. To outsiders, it might seem like a lazy afternoon nap, but actually it's a tough biological calculation. Moving quickly means sweating, and sweating means losing water from the body. On this barren, rocky island, fresh water is the most fragile treasure. The salt mountains can never hold rainwater. Every drop of water they drink comes by diesel-powered ferry, crossing the sea from the mainland. And when the ferry is delayed in rough waters, the harsh reality of living under the salt dome becomes painfully clear. Here, thirst isn't just an abstract idea. It's an everyday struggle. Math problems. They count the plastic water jars kept in the corner of the room. They share the melted ice carefully. They know their survival depends on a risky water route, full of tension and fragile supply. So they almost go silent, speak slowly, save their breath. Let the earth soak up the day's heat. Then December comes. The intense heat, stretched tight like rubber for days, suddenly breaks. The temperature drops to a bearable 18 degrees, and the island seems to start breathing again. The ferry arrives from the mainland. Back then, it wasn't just water jars being brought in anymore. A flood of new people showed up. The heavy silence of the dock shattered in an instant, breaking into 1,000 pieces. The iron ramp hit the concrete with a loud clang. Dozens of people got off all at once. Right in front of them stood brightly colored walls and the strong smell of two-stroke engines. These were the local drivers' three-wheeled motorbikes, which everyone calls tuk-tuks. Wrapped in colorful cloth and shiny ribbons, these little vehicles seemed to dance in the air. The drivers stood there in messy saris, kicking up red dust and shouting over the roar of their engines to get passengers. It sounds chaotic and messy at first, but it's really just a desperate rush to harvest crops. Winter is short, if you're lucky, only 3 or 4 months. These drivers know that the money they make during these cold months is what'll feed their kids before the summer heat hits. Every trip is a calculation, every passenger is a meal for July, so they push the engine hard, load up passengers, grip the handle tight, and race toward the coast. They inch their way through narrow dirt paths, leaving just enough space. They know exactly where the muddy walls have swelled up and where sharp salt rocks might scrape their tires. It's a mess of laughter and shouting. The air fills with sound. The sharp buzz of small motors mixes with people's cheers. The heavy wooden doors of the village swing open. Local families call complete strangers into their courtyards. A few hours earlier, fresh prawns caught from the canal and steaming plates of rice are served. The sun-baked tough island temporarily turns into a refuge. People ride the wave of the season, working quickly, because everyone knows the fire will come back. Leaving behind the village's lively buzz, people hop onto three-wheeled motorbikes. Engines roar. They speed down the hard dirt road, jumping from bike to bike, moving towards the coast. The view opens up all around. Yellow stones, dry bushes, and a huge empty sky. Then slowly the ground starts to look blood-stained. Not all at once. First the soil changes to a deep purple like bruises from a hit. Then it deepens and turns into a shiny, bright red. The driver stops. The visitors get off to see a landscape that feels like it's not even part of this world. An unfamiliar, almost surreal, yet incredibly alive place. This is the Red Beach. In the distance, the white salt ridges look like mountains covered in fresh snow, yet there's no cold here at all. No one's around. People wipe the sweat off their foreheads and head toward the water. The sand isn't soft. It feels heavy underfoot, like wet metal powder. A breeze keeps blowing through the channel, carrying tiny red dust that settles on your skin as a rough layer. On rare rainy days, the whole beach turns into a crimson river. That red water flows into the sea, coloring everything along the way. It feels like the island itself is bleeding into the ocean. The waves don't break into white foam when they hit the shore. Instead, they crash down in strange pink bubbles. Just a few meters from the shore, the water in the distance looks stained with blood. That red color is actually iron oxide. Rust slowly eats away at the volcanic rock. Visitors walk along the water's edge. Their white shoes never stay white for long. Fine red dust gets into the fabric. It settles under their nails and leaves stains on the hems of their pants. Little girls sell layers of differently colored soil from the island, packed in glass bottles. Their hands are permanently red. For a moment, visitors feel drawn to this place. It's a strange kind of beauty that hits you right in the eyes. They pull out their phones to capture this otherworldly scene. The Earth's, what looks like a beautiful scar on the surface, is actually the island's most valuable treasure. But the people here don't just see it that way. They don't sell it in little bottles either. They eat it. And that's what sets this place apart from everywhere else in the world. This red soil isn't just a geological wonder, it's a fundamental part of life. In a quiet corner of the village, local women sit kneeling on hand-woven mats, working. They're deeply focused, carrying on a tradition that's hundreds of years old. In front of them, a heavy metal pan heats up over a small gas flame. What looks like the start of an ordinary cooking session, it's actually an ancient recipe. A woman takes a handful of red soil, which they call jalak here. She sifts it through a fine cloth to separate big stones and rough bits. Then she mixes that fine red powder with water and local spices to make a thick, rich red paste. It's a kind of sauce made right from the hills. After that, she takes a lump of dough and spreads it thin and round on a hot pan. This is Tomzi bread, the lifeblood of the islanders. When the edges start curling up a bit, she dips her finger into the red paste and spreads it over us. After the monsoon, it smells like metal. This isn't some fancy exhibit made for tourists. It's been a part of their lives for generations. They use the red soil to enhance the flavor of fish. They use it to thicken stews. They even use it to preserve pickles. They believe the iron-rich soil is good for their blood. Powerful countries threaten to block these waterways over mineral and oil rights. They see this island as a strategic asset, something to control with maps and navies. But if missiles ever come flying, what good will this red soil or mud house be? Ever thought about the women who make bread? For the people of Hormuz, the land isn't some strategic resource. It's just where their dinner comes from. The women in Hormuz walk through the village like they belong to another time. Their faces are hidden behind thick, colorful masks called burqa. From afar, they look like they're wearing armor. Their noses, mouths, and cheeks are all covered. Only their eyes are visible. These masks, stitched with deep reds, bright yellows, and metallic threads in intricate patterns, flutter in the breeze like moving pieces of colorful history. To outsiders, these masks might seem confusing, even heavy and restrictive, like a symbol of restraint. But what seems like restraint is actually a way of survival. It's not about hiding your face here, it's pride in protecting your face. The sun on this island isn't just bright, it's a real threat. It burns your skin. And the constant wind brings salt and sand that year after year wears down and erodes people's faces. The mask called bor is a shield. It blocks harsh light. It protects against biting sand. Women say this mask keeps their skin soft. It preserves their youth against the harsh weather. At the same time, it's a language. The shape and color of the mask tell you a woman's marital status or her own, the village. The red rectangular mask probably means he's married. It's for a special festival, golden in color. A tradition passed down from mother to daughter, a silent way of communication. Everyone knows everyone here. Young girls don't always wear it. Some prefer sunglasses and scarves, but the older generation holds tightly to this tradition. Their masks show the marks of time, faded colors, frayed threads. These aren't just decorations, they're proof of a life spent under the harsh sun, a kind of strength that doesn't need words. The sun slowly dips toward the horizon. Long shadows stretch across the dusty village roads. At a corner with little breeze, local women set up small cooking carts. They make samosas. An elderly woman stands by the hot oil. A teenage girl fries thin dough into perfect triangles. They work with ease, like it's something they've done 1,000 times. On this island, girls grow up fast. Many get married by the time they're 15. That's just how things are here. The work never ends. Families have to grow, responsibilities have to be taken on. The little girls watch their mothers' every move and learn. They pick up how much filling to put in, how to fold them just right. They're following the same path that's been walked for centuries. She walks. In the oil pan, the food sizzles quietly. Many women love Hormuz because it's their whole world. Yet they dream of the green forests of northern Iran, the cool breeze, the salt-free mountains. Those places feel like another planet to them. They take golden brown samosas out of the hot oil and neatly arrange them on a metal tray for the evening rush. Their lives are tough but simple. They don't worry about huge tankers. They worry if the price of flour will go up or if their child will get sick. Their lives are about counting small victories, a good sail, a healthy child, or a long. At the end of a hot day, a sudden cool breeze blows. That breeze passes through the village, going beyond the old mud walls along the earthen road. But not everyone on this island lives in old houses. Just a short walk along the quiet dirt path, you'll spot a strange, colorful dome sitting on the sand, like a giant painted egg dropped on the ground. People call it the Majara Hotel. Local men built this structure by hand using mud, cement, and palm leaves. Like fishermen, they used old wisdom, making thick shells to block the sun's heat. The bright colors on the outside look like a deception. People come in expecting a fancy resort, but what they get is a harsh reality. Heavy wooden beds with thin, unbelievably hard mattresses on top. When someone sits, the wooden frame creaks. It's like the place itself is reminding you how tough it is. No soft carpets, no luxury furniture. It feels like a stark reminder of reality. Even the most familiar hotels on the Salt Dome had to struggle to survive at first. Visitors usually spend most of their time later in the small coffee shop inside the Blue Dome, sitting in the cool air, sipping lattes and watching the ships waiting in the canal beyond the glass. They stare out the window as red dust falls like heavy clouds. People spend a few extra dollars to live here, just for a roof over their heads and a solid place to rest. Still, they rely on the island's wishes. Leaving behind the red dust of the coast, they move forward toward the White Mountains, which rise up from afar like frozen glaciers. This is the Salt Plateau. From a distance, the mountains look like they're covered in fresh snow, but there's no cold breeze here. The sunlight hits the white surface, creating a dazzling glare. People squint and keep moving. They search for an entrance inside the rocks and then step inside the Rainbow Cave. The sunlight fades away. Suddenly, the earth turns cold. Then, as the torchlight hits, the walls start to glow. The rocks aren't just plain grayish-brown. It's like a natural museum. Thick stripes of deep red, purple, and rich orange flow through the salt. It feels like the earth has been painting itself from the inside for millions of years. Walking slowly along the narrow path, people touch the walls to feel them. The salt is grainy and rough. In some spots, the crystals are so sharp they could cut you. Elsewhere, they're smooth and glass-like. Looking up at the ceiling, you see little white crystals hanging down like icicles. Rain. Then comes silence. The strangest thing about these hills. The sound of salt crystals doesn't echo. It gets absorbed. People stop talking and start hearing the blood rushing inside their ears. A heavy silence that feels like a weight on your chest. Some folks come here just for this air. They believe the ancient salt clears their lungs, heals the body. Sitting on the flat rocks, they take deep breaths in the dark. Up above, the world's full of noise, heat, and politics. But inside the hills, everything just stops. Time seems to move at the pace of growing crystals. Just for a few minutes, the islanders and the mainland people become one, just bodies breathing in the dark. When they come out of the cave, white dust sticks to the visitors' clothes. They head south to the market where solid ground suddenly drops into the sea. Thousands of years of fierce winds have worn down the weak stones, leaving behind carved limestone pillars. The locals call this the Valley of Statues. These giant stones stand still, while beneath them the modern world keeps fighting on. Every evening, huge steel ships carrying crude oil cut through the water and move forward. Politicians argue about military blockades, but these mountains never move. To them, human wars are just a little breeze causing some disturbance. At the foot of the hills, red soil mixes with the waves. A female sea turtle hauls her heavy shell onto the dry shore. Every inch she moves is a battle against her own weight. Using her flippers, she circles a deep hole and lays her eggs in the same soil where her ancestors laid theirs centuries ago. The warm earth protects the next generation. From afar, near a cargo ship, this island just looks like a tough strategic checkpoint. Yeah, but inside the sand, it's an essential shelter. It'll last long before the steel fleet starts to rust.